here at the shiur, and the people who will be seeing this live, I guess, and on video afterwards, which is very nice. That's the technology we have today. My name is Yisrael Rozenberg. I live in Jerusalem and was told just a few minutes ago that I'm going to be teaching this class, but we have such an exciting parsha that it was not hard to prepare. So I prepared a few things. And now may I just ask to show who we're dealing with here. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Now you can see that this, I'm not just talking to myself. There we go. Yeah, go around. But the guy who's doing the Kitav Sofer, we don't have to bother him. Let him just continue. So he's listening. Baruch Hashem. Okay. Anyway, there we go. So here it is. All right. We are taking a look at this week's Parsha. We have a very unusual Parsha in some ways because let's even start at the very beginning. I just need to get you to the right place, which is Bamidbar. 380, page 380. Page 300. Thank you so much. Wow, that was an easy way to getting there. We're talking we are in Parshat Chukat, which has a lot of interesting things in it. But at the very end, there's some. Well, before we get to the very end, let's look at one verse which says something about what we're doing here. Hold on. What did you say? What page? 380. 380. Because different one. I think this is a different version, so we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out ourselves. That's okay. Let me just get there for a sec. It's Bamidbar Kaf Pasuk Aleph. You guys all have it. Are you looking at a chumash? Do you have chumashim? Yeah. Yeah. Does everybody have? Yeah, I was hoping that the people would have a chumash. Do we have enough? Or we can share if necessarily. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we need again.
You can have a Tanakh or a Chumash, whatever is good for you. Okay. And we are talking Perek Kaf, Pasuk Aleph.
Which chapter?
What's that? Which chapter? Chapter Kaf, chapter 20. Okay?
20. Just want to make sure we have the right volume.
Yeah, that's fine. That's great. Okay, do people have the place?
Kaf what?
Pasuk Aleph, the first Pasuk in Perek Kaf. So we have, as it says here, who wants to read that verse? Would you like to? Perek Kaf Pasuk Aleph, do you have it? Yeah, in Hebrew.
That's good. Vayevo b'nei Yisrael kol dor ha'ida.
Right.
B'midbar sin b'chodesh harashon v'yeshav ha'am v'kadesh
Tamat
Shama Mirim V'takaver Sham.
Okay, so the real question here is, we have a date, and we've been following Am Yisrael as they have built the Mishkan, and they've gone into the desert, and they're doing various things, and it's a couple years in the beginning of the time that they've been out of Egypt, and all of a sudden it says, Vayavo v'nei Yisrael kol ha'edah, all the assembly of Israel goes to Midbar Tzin, b'chodesh harishon, at the first month. Gentlemen, what year are we talking about? I mean, it'd be nice to know.
40.
We are talking about the end of the 40 years. In other words, what happened prior to this is a discussion of different things, and someone pressed the fast forward button. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves 40 years out. So we're already, without saying what happened for the past 38 years. It's not clear to us. Because the story skips 38 years of our experience in the desert. We know that we had 38 years and we went from place to place as a nation in the desert. But here we're coming to the end. We're coming to the end of the 40 years in the desert. But it doesn't say that, but it's a very, very important thing to know. So now we're looking at the events that take place just before the nation of Israel enters the land of Israel. Okay? From now on, that's what we're going to be talking about. You see it?
Shmuel,
No, we're in
Bamidbar.
Bamidbar, in the Chumash. I'm sorry, we didn't make that clear to you.
It's my mistake.
You have right here, you have a
Right here.
Tanakh here. You can look right in this Tanakh.
Okay.
It's okay?
Yeah, I'll show it.
So that's the first thing. Just let's get ourselves situated in time. We have come to the point just now in this Parsha where we're looking down the barrel of the end of the 40 years in the desert. Okay? So the next verse we have is Kaf Aleph, and we're going to see something there. We'll talk about it for a minute. 21. Just a sec. Actually, let me make sure that's not exactly where I want to be. Bear with me. No, I meant, yes. Perek Kaf Aleph, Pasuk Kaf Aleph. That is to say, 21, chapter 21, verse 21. Okay? You got it there, man? Good.
Vayishlach.
No, we're in Chukat. We're in Bamidbar Chukat. So we're... yes, the word is Vayishlach. I'm sorry. You got it. You want to read it? Can you read it?
Who was right?
Vayishlach Yisrael. No.
Vayamin.
21.
21. Just a sec. Let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Vayikam?
Vayishlach. See it?
21, sorry.
We just want to make... Does everyone...
I think mine is correct.
21.
Yeah, got it.
Yep. 21.
Vayishlach.
Okay, this now, guys, this is the core of the story that we're going to be talking about. Go ahead. Your name again, I'm sorry, is Daniel. I'll remember that now. So go ahead and read the verse.
Vayishlach Yisrael Malachim El Sichon Melech Haimori Lemor.
Okay, let's stop with that. We are now at a position, just try to understand a couple, I didn't want to go through everything because it's too much all at once, but what is happening is Am Yisrael is coming out of the desert and they're going up, they're actually going around the Dead Sea. In other words, they're going through the valley that goes from the Kinneret to the Dead Sea. And they're heading north, and when they get up to the north, they're going to cut into the land of Canaan. Because the land of Canaan, which is where they're conquering at this point, is pretty much similar to what is today the state of Israel. In fact, those people who decided what the state of Israel is, what our borders were people who knew the Bible. And they understood that the land of Canaan, which was to be the land of Israel, is where they wanted the borders to be. And then, of course, with the 6-Day War, we made the borders all the way straight out. And we had Judea and Samaria into the state of Israel, okay? So let's look at that for a sec. So they go up the coast, and all of a sudden they encounter, they sent messengers to Sichon, the king of the Amorites. In English we say Amorites, but it's the Amorim, okay? And then the next verse. You want to read it, Daniel?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ebra
Mm-hmm.
Bartecha
Yep.
Lo Nite Bisade Ubcherem Lo Nishte Mi Ber Baderach Hamelech Melech Ad Asher Navud
Gvulecha.
Kulech.
So let me say what that's saying. Ebra says the messengers come with a message from Am Yisrael to the King Sichon, the king of the Amori, and they say, "Let us cross through your land. We will not tilt. We will not turn towards your fields or your vineyards, and we will not drink water from your wells. But Derech HaMelech Nelech. We're walking. The Derech HaMelech is actually that valley, the bottom of that valley that goes all the way up to the north, which is today where the Jordan River is. Okay, it's at the same time. That was called the way of the king. Okay, so the messenger says, listen, we're going to go through your land, but we're not going to bother you. We're going to, and it says also we're going to pay for water if we need it for our flocks, but we don't want trouble with you. We just want to pass through. Okay, that's what it says. Next verse. Someone else wants to read it?
I'll read it.
Go for it.
ולא נתן סחון
Mm-hmm.
את ישראל עבור בגבולו ויאסוף סיחון את כל עמו
Mm-hmm.
ויצא לקראת
Yeah.
ישראל המדברה ויבוא
יצא.
וילחם.
וילחם. Mm-hmm. וילחם.
וילחם בישראל.
So what does Sichon, guys, if you're following the narrative a little bit, what does Sichon say? How does he respond to our request to cross through his land, but not go right or left, stay right along the path, and we'll leave him alone? What does he say? He says no. And he says, not only does he say no, but he amasses an army to fight us. So what happens? I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and say this. We fought Sichon, the king of Emori, and we ended up conquering that land. Now the question becomes, wait a minute. Now, we had that atlas for a moment. Maybe I can take a look at that. That would be very useful. Let's see what we're talking about for a sec.
In order of the
Great. Yeah, so I'm just going to grab a Nimrod's Empire, something that will show the geography of it. Here it is. Check it out, guys. This is the King's Highway, what we were just talking about. This is a path. In ancient times, there were highways, not like the highways we have today, but they were paths. But they were worn places where people went up and down along. And this path, if you look, this is, if you can visualize this is the Dead Sea. So this path goes up on the eastern side of the Dead Sea. And our claim was, we're just going to go along this path, we're not going to bother you. But here is Yatzah, okay? Now, if you can consider just for a sec, to see if I have another map to show you that gives a better picture, better view of the land. Here it is, I think, better. We were really intending to be in the land of Canaan. Goes out to the ocean here, Tel Aviv today. Can you see this all? I'm pointing. Can you see? Okay. So we're supposed to conquer the land of Canaan. And we're supposed to just go up just like we said. We weren't planning on bothering anybody. But what happened? We were attacked. And what did we do? We conquered that entire section of land for us. All of a sudden, the land of Israel was no longer just this thin sliver of the land of Canaan, which we were supposed to conquer, but it expanded out to a whole new area. Now we have to ask ourselves why. But we're going to look at the next section here. You following me, guys? Okay, so what happens? We go up. Let's jump to, hold on a sec. Okay. Because we're going to talk about another king. Just a sec. Here. Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Kaf Aleph. We're in Perek, right? Kaf Aleph. Lamed Gimel. Yosef, you want to read it? Lamed Gimel. So we're skipping ahead a little bit, but I'm trying to give you the idea. Vayifnu.
ויפנו והעלו דרך הבשן ויצא אוג מלך הבשן לקראתם הוא בכל עמו למלחמה אדרה.
Oh, so what happens here? What we've decided, we're continuing northward because we want to go up. We want to come into the land of Israel, into the land of Canaan, at the north point, not in the south. We were coming from the south in the desert, and we're going northward. So this time we come to the area of another Amorite king. What's his name? Og. Og is an Amorite king, a king of a people in what is today. Does anyone know? The Golan. This is the Golan. We're talking about the Golan, guys. So we come up, and without questions, without any asking questions or anything, they attack us. They attack us with all their force. Okay? And what do? We knock the daylights out of them. We conquer them. They attacked us. Isn't that, I think, according to the laws of war, if you're attacked by an enemy, you have a right to respond. Am I right? I think that's a pretty basic thing in the world.
And to take their land.
Unless you're Jews and they tell you, but you can't do that because we're Jews. But that's a different story. Okay? In this case, they did that. All of a sudden, what happened is they added a whole. These areas were one on top of the other. In other words, here is the land of Sichot, and we conquered that, and we went right up and conquered the Golan. So if anyone wants to say that historically we don't belong in the Golan, and that it's for Syria, I think we have a different claim, don't we? Because it's right here. And those guys believe that this book is important as well. And in fact, they have a tradition that what we're talking about here is absolutely true. That this is part of the land of Israel, and this is conquered by the nation of Israel, and that is for the nation of Israel. That is part of Islamic tradition, but they're pretty good at ignoring their tradition. Basically, is what is really what we're talking about. Ignoring what the Quran says, which is a very major problem, I think, in international relations, because they claim to be religious Muslims, and they may be religious Muslims, but they ignore what is written in their Quran. But maybe the problem is that we ourselves, as the Jewish people, don't point to the Quran and say, listen, guys, you have a statement here, and I have it written down. It's in chapter 7, verse 137, which says that the land that is on the east and west sides of the river, it's talking about the Jordan River, was given by Allah to the nation of Israel as an inheritance for our fortitude that we displayed in fighting Pharaoh, king of Egypt, period. Well, I can understand why they ignore that, but what I don't understand is why isn't someone in our world claiming, gentlemen, you say you're Muslims. Why don't you be good Muslims and behave what your book says and leave us alone?
Because they'll tell us, you guys say that you're Jews and you guys aren't doing what's in your book.
Except
also.
they say, okay, but they say that we are the state, we are the nation of Israel. And yes, we are doing what's in our book. That's what we're here for, isn't it? Yeah. So I think that claim doesn't really hold anymore.
Well, they say like the gay parades and all this kind of stuff.
Everything in its time, gentlemen. This is
they just kill people who leave their religion anyway, so it's not like they have the same problems that we do. Like we do, everybody, once you're a Jew, you're a Jew.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
we're
right.
People, they're just a religion.
They don't even have. Well, now see, that's a very interesting statement you said. Mm-hmm. The Jewish people is a people. It's a nation. Islam is a religion. It's not a people. You don't have to be a particular nation to have the faith of Islam. But with the Jewish people, we have the faith of Judaism is part of the nation, and you can't have the faith of Judaism without being part of the nation of Judaism. But that's a whole nother discussion. Anyway, what I'm saying is, gentlemen, we see that we went up north, and all of a sudden we added a couple pieces of land that we didn't even expect. We have to ask ourselves why. And that's what we're going to look at next when we go to the Brit Bein HaBitarim in Breshit Tetvav. If you guys can turn to Breshit, if you have a Tanakh. It's in Lech Lecha. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you exactly. It is Tetvav, Pasuk Tetzayin through Yudchet. Tetvav, Pasuk Tetzayin.
Good job, I wasn't a guest.
So we even have to get more than the Golan.
Which pass?
What?
It's Perek Tetvav, the Perek 15, verse 16. Okay? Let me get to it as well. We're going to see what's bringing this about.
All Lebanon is ours.
Tetvav, Perek Tetvav, Pasuk Tet Zayin. That's where we're going to start. There are actually a couple pasukim right there. It'll be a short look at this source, but we'll see some very important things. Just a sec. Let me get there too. Tet Zayin. Oh, okay. So this, guys, is the Brit Ben Abitarim. This is that Brit where HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises. You got it, guys? Everyone see it? Chapter Tetvav, Pasuk Tet Zayin. See it?
The David?
Vidor. Vidor. That's the first word. Just a sec. Vidor V'i. Okay, who wants to read that verse? Got it? It's a little confusing. Let's try it again. Perek Tetvav, Pasuk Tet Zayin. See it? Shmuel, read it up for us. Stop there for a second. Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I'm giving you the core of it, but I'm going to go around it and explain. Kadosh Baruch Hu is promising to Avraham Avinu that his descendants will go to Egypt, but they will return. But he says something very interesting. He says, only the fourth generation of the people who are going down to Egypt will return. Why? What's his reason?
The iniquity of Emori is not yet full.
The sins of the people called the Emorim is not yet ripe enough for your people to come, for your descendants to come back and conquer the land. In other words, this is crazy, kind of, but it's what it's saying. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I'm waiting until these people have sinned so much that it can't be tolerated anymore, then I'm sending you in to conquer them. Okay? Now look at skip one verse and look at Yud Chet. Who's going to read Yud Chet?
I'll read.
Go ahead.
Bayom Ahu Karat Adonai et Avram Berit le Amor le Zaraha Natati et Haaretz Hazot Minhar Mitzrayim Ad Hanahar Hagadol Nahar Parat.
What are we saying, guys? On that day, says the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on that day, Bayomahu, just a sec. Bayomahu, Karat Adonai et Avram Brit. Hashem made a brit. The word karat, I like to think of as cut. He cut a brit, as we do in Brit Milah. He cut a deal, so to speak. He cut a deal with Avram, right? Saying, to your seed, meaning to your descendants, I have given, not in the future, now, even though the seeds are not there yet, I have now given into the future your descendants, et aretz hazot, this land. What are the borders of this land? From the Nahar Mitzrayim ad Hanahar Hagadol Nahar Prat. What does that mean, guys?
From the river Nile to the Euphrates.
From the river Nile
To the sea.
to the they don't get what they're saying. They don't know what they're saying.
They're just saying they're going to give us the land for free. Like, they're not going to charge us anything.
Thank
Also
you.
the river, the
Thank
book of the
you.
Nile.
Gentlemen, look at this map for a sec. Where is the current state of Israel today? I should have penciled it in.
It's about a quarter of.
A quarter? It's an eighth.
Yeah.
This is the state of Israel today, from here to here, okay? And this is the land that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised to Avraham Avinu and his descendants as an eternal inheritance, okay? What's going on here? What's going on here? What we're watching, what we just saw in our Parsha is HaKadosh Baruch Hu fulfilling. It's almost as if he looked and he said, oh, they're marching up. Not only will I get, he said, I'm going to give them the land of Canaan, But why not start already to go for the land of Abraham that I promised him? Let me just ask a question, gentlemen. When a Kodesh Baruch Hu makes a promise about doing something, is he like us?
No.
No. He keeps his promises. And it doesn't matter if it takes 10,000 years. It doesn't matter. The promise will be fulfilled. So now, I'm going to ask a question. What are we doing sitting on the border with Lebanon, and they're lobbing missiles at us like any kid on the block? If you were in a situation where a bully was throwing stones at you all the time, how are you supposed to respond?
Wipe them out.
Yes. You have to respond. You have a right to respond and you must respond. The question is, are we going to do that? I don't know. But I show you a picture here, guys. We have just a couple minutes. This is a picture of the three paratroopers who in 1967 found themselves completely unaware of what was going on. They didn't know they were going to conquer Jerusalem. No one expected to. In fact, the plans of the war were such that we weren't supposed to touch Jerusalem. But once again, great King Hussein joined the war. We told him, listen, don't join the war. We'll leave you alone. Just like we saw it with Sichot Melech HaEmori. We said, we're not going to touch you. Don't mess with us. He didn't listen. Why didn't he listen? It says it explicitly in the continuation of this story. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu hardened his heart.
Wow.
Just like the Kodesh Baruch Hu hardened the heart of Pharaoh. In fact, King Solomon says, Leiv Malachim b'yad Hashem. There's a cloud, there's a general rule, that the heart of kings, meaning leaders, political leaders, are in the hands of God. He's moving the chess pieces, not them. He's moving the chess pieces. But now I'm going to ask you a question. What you're seeing, guys, perhaps, and in 1967 we expanded. Our enemies say, hey, they started out this little country, and then we attacked them, and they expanded, and then they expanded more. Yes, it's right. Yes, they're right. You know those pictures of showing how Israel expands?
Yeah.
They're right. But they haven't seen anything yet. They haven't seen anything yet. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised that the nation of Israel will live in the land that he promised to Abraham. And that, sirs, is what we see here, which is a little bit bigger. Now, I leave you with a very important question. Does it have to be with war? Maybe not. Let's look and see the sources I gave you. I will read them for you because we just have a couple moments. These are...
You didn't mention the picture. I mean, the violin.
So, yeah, do you want to mention it?
The middle one is, he just passed away this week.
This week. These three, first of all, look at that picture for a sec. The wall is behind them, gentlemen. What are they looking at? What are they looking at? Does anyone have an idea?
Temple Mount.
No, the Temple Mount is behind them. The Kotel is behind them.
They're just posing.
They're not
Looking
posing
at
for
the-
anything.
They're looking at the old city.
They're looking at the Shekhinah.
Oh.
They're looking at the presence, the divine presence, which was descending upon the city when we conquered it. For the first time in 2,000 years, the nation of Israel controls the city of Jerusalem that God gave us. And okay, and this guy in the middle, I met him 3 years ago at the Western Walls. I met him, and I looked at him. He came in, and I saw him, and I said, "You look familiar. Do I know who you are?" And then all of a sudden, I said, "Oh my gosh!" I went up and I gave him a hug. He's a little guy. He's a little guy, but for me, growing up in America in the 1960s, 1967, I was 6 years old. Okay, the only thing I remember as a kid was that picture. That picture was that one photograph, and the way the photographer did it is he actually said, "Gentlemen, hold on a sec." He lay down on the ground on his back and looked up. You can see he's looking at the faces. See how he's looking up at them? He's looking up at them, literally like that. He took the picture, and that picture went all around the world. That picture represents a very simple and important point. We are back. And being back here is for the good of the whole world. So they better get notice of it. They better start understanding we are back and we're not going anywhere, no matter what they do. Maybe Hamas and Hezbollah are preparing to fill the sins of the Amorites themselves until the time comes. But maybe not, because I'll give you this last thing. We're just about, right? What time is it?
12:59.
Oh, okay, so I'll just read this fast and I'll let you go. V'chol echad mehamelachim yitein lo matana. This is from a source from a special document of Rabbi Nachman of Breslev called his Secret Scroll, where he had a vision and he wrote it down all at once, and he's now talking about Melech HaMashiach. V'chol echad mehamelachim yitein lo matana. Every one of the kings that he's dealing with, he's an international figure, will give him a gift. O Medina, O Anashim, they'll give him a state or they'll give him people. Ki ktsatam yitnu lo ma'anak, they'll give him like a gift, a monetary gift. V'hu yachlif im kol echad, ad asher yikabel bechalifin Eretz Yisrael. He's going to, where did we see this actually happening, gentlemen, many years ago? Think for a sec. Who was negotiating for the state of Israel, for the land? Herzl. Herzl was negotiating with the kings of the world to receive the land of Israel. So this is already sort of happening. But listen what he says. Ad shikabel bechalifin Eretz Yisrael. So he's saying that it's a negotiated settlement. Now let's see why they would want to do such a thing. Why would the nations of the world want to do such a thing? Look at the second source. V'chulam yitpatlu etzlo. All the peoples of the world will just cave in, will just give up to his personality. Okay, let's listen to this. B'li rash o milchama, without noise or war. That's a pretty wild scenario, no? Rak mechamat hachein v'hashtokekut elav. They have so much admiration and desire for this individual, whoever that individual will be, that there will be no more wars. V'yaseh lekulam nimusim. He will make for them laws. V'yitaken lahem tefillah. And he will make for them prayers. The whole world. Okay? V'kacha yitnaheg. Ad she, and thusly will he behave until such point as ki az ehepoch el amim safa vrura. I will turn over to the nations a clear language, likro kulam b'shem Hashem, that all shall call out in the name of Hashem, le'avdo shechem echad. They will worship or serve God as one shoulder, that is lined up together. Doesn't sound much like a war, does it? Now, this is not the Tanakh. This is not something that we've been counting on for thousands of years, but it is a description of the vision of one very special individual, how these things will happen. So maybe, when the avon of these people is filled, maybe this will happen. We should be zoche to see in our day the redemption of the world without a single shot, without war. That's it, guys.